At my birthday party, my mom stood up and said loudly enough for the whole room to hear, "We all agree you should sell your house and give the money to your sister's baby fund. She needs it more." My cousins cheered, my dad smiled, and my sister wiped fake tears. I just raised my glass, opened my phone, and read out loud a message from the bank that made every fork drop at the table. "My name is Janice Hayes, and I'm about to tell you how one birthday dinner turned into the most satisfying moment of my entire life." Let me back up a bit. I'm the oldest of two daughters born to Michael and Patricia Hayes. My sister Jennifer is 3 years younger than me. And if you asked anyone in our family, she's basically walked on water since the day she was born. Golden Child doesn't even begin to cover it. While I was expected to excel at everything, Jennifer could fail spectacularly and still receive a standing ovation. I graduated top of my class in high school, got a full scholarship to NYU, and worked my way through a master's degree in finance while working 2 jobs. I bought my first apartment at 25 with money I'd saved since I was 16. By 30, I'd saved enough for a down payment on a beautiful 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood in Connecticut, about an hour outside the city where I work as a senior financial analyst. Jennifer, on the other hand, dropped out of community college after 1 semester, has had approximately 17 different jobs in the past decade, and currently works part-time at a boutique that her best friend's mom owns. She's never lived anywhere except our parents' house, drives a car that Dad pays for, and has a credit card that mysteriously gets paid off every month by Mom. But here's the thing that really sets Jennifer apart. She's pregnant. And not just pregnant, but engaged to Brandon, a guy she met 9 months ago at a bar. Brandon works in sales, which apparently means he sells protein supplements to gym brothers on Instagram. He drives a leased BMW he can't afford and still lives with his parents at 34. The pregnancy was unplanned, but according to my mother, it was a blessing and a miracle, and exactly what this family needs. Never mind that Jennifer has no savings, no stable income, and no actual plan for how to raise a child. The family rallied around her like she discovered the cure for cancer. And me? Well, I'm the selfish career woman who's married to her job and doesn't understand what really matters in life. The fact that I'm single and childless at 32 is apparently a source of great shame for my mother, who never misses an opportunity to remind me that my eggs are shriveling up and that I'll die alone with my fancy house and empty bank account. For the record, my bank account is far from empty, but we'll get to that. So, when Mom called me 3 weeks before my birthday and suggested we have a small family dinner at my place to celebrate, I should have known something was up. Mom never wanted to come to my house. She'd always complained that it was too far, too modern, too cold. She preferred Jennifer's childhood bedroom, which was apparently warmer and more welcoming than my entire professionally decorated home. But I'm an idiot, so I said yes. I even offered to cook, which Mom immediately shot down because apparently my cooking is too fancy and trying too hard. She insisted on catering from Olive Garden because it's Jennifer's favorite and she's eating for 2 now. The guest list started small, just my parents and Jennifer and Brandon, but then it grew. Mom invited my Aunt Carol and Uncle Jim, then my cousins Tyler and Stephanie, then my dad's brother, Uncle Ray, and his wife Linda. Before I knew it, I had 15 people coming to my house for what was supposed to be my birthday dinner. I should have canned. I should have claimed food poisoning or a work emergency or spontaneous combustion, but I didn't because despite everything, there was still a small, pathetic part of me that wanted my family's approval. The day of the party arrived. I'd taken the afternoon off to prepare, even though Mom was handling the food. I cleaned my house until it sparkled, set up a beautiful table with my good china, bought fresh flowers for the centerpiece, and even picked up a fancy bottle of wine that I've been saving for a special occasion. People started arriving at 6. Jennifer showed up first, her prominent baby bump displayed in a tight dress that showed off her 8-month pregnancy. Brandon trailing behind her like a puppy. She immediately started critiquing my house. "It's so cold in here, Janice," she said, rubbing her arms dramatically. "Don't you think about the environment? The baby is going to need a warm, loving home, not some sterile museum." I was running a normal heating system, and it was perfectly comfortable, but I smiled and offered to get her a sweater. "I don't want a sweater," she huffed. "I want you to care about more than just showing off your money." Brandon nodded along like she'd said something profound. I noticed he was wearing a shirt that said, "Daddy loading with an arrow pointing down. I died a little inside." My parents arrived next, Mom immediately zeroing in on everything I'd done wrong. The flowers were too ostentatious. The wine was unnecessary since Jennifer couldn't drink. Why didn't I have more comfortable seating for a pregnant woman? The rest of the family trickled in, and soon my house was full of people who seemed to be judging every square inch of it. My cousin Stephanie, who dropped out of college and was living with her parents while working part-time at a coffee shop, made several comments about how some people just have it easy. Uncle Ray, who filed for bankruptcy twice, wondered aloud how I could afford such a nice place on a woman's salary. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Dinner was the usual affair. Mom had ordered enough Olive Garden to feed an army, and everyone piled their plates high while sitting around my dining table. The conversation inevitably turned to Jennifer's pregnancy and the upcoming baby. "We're thinking of naming her Sophia," Jennifer announced, one hand on her stomach. After Brandon's grandmother, everyone cooed appropriately. Mom had actual tears in her eyes. "That's beautiful," Aunt Carol gushed. "A new generation. There's nothing more important than family." "Speaking of which," Mom said, and I noticed her exchange a look with Dad. "We've been talking, and we think it's time we address something important." I was cutting into my fettuccine Alfredo, not really paying attention. I assumed they were about to announce they were helping with the baby's nursery or something. "Janice," Mom said, and the way she said my full name made me look up. "We need to talk about your priorities." The table got quiet. I felt 15 pairs of eyes on me. "My priorities," I said slowly. "Yes," Mom continued, her voice taking on that tone she used when she was about to deliver what she considered to be hard truths. "We've all been discussing it, and we think you need to take a hard look at your life choices." I sat down my fork. "What are you talking about?" Dad cleared his throat. "Honey, you're 32 years old. You have this big house. You're focused on your career, but you're missing out on what really matters. Family, children, legacy." "I have a family," I said, gesturing around the table. "You're all here." "But you don't have your own family," Aunt Linda chimed in. "You're so focused on material things that you're missing out on real joy." I felt my face getting hot. "I'm sorry, but what does this have to do with my birthday?" "Everything," Mom said, her voice rising. "Because we care about you and we want you to be happy. And right now, you're being selfish." The word hung in the air like a slap. "Selfish?" I repeated flatly. "Yes," Jennifer said, and I noticed she was sitting up straighter, one hand protectively on her bump. "You have all this space, all this money, and you're not sharing it with the people who actually need it. I'm sorry." "What?" Mom stood up then, and I knew whatever was coming was going to be bad. She had that look on her face, the one she got when she was about to make a pronouncement she expected everyone to agree with. "We all agree," she said loudly, making sure everyone in the room could hear her clearly. "You should sell your house and give the money to your sister's baby fund. She needs it more." The room erupted. My cousins actually cheered. Tyler started clapping. Stephanie was nodding enthusiastically. Dad was smiling like Mom had just suggested we all get ice cream. And Jennifer, my darling baby sister, wiped what I'm absolutely certain were fake tears from her eyes. "That's so generous," she whispered. "I knew you'd come through for us, Janice." I sat there, fork still in hand, trying to process what had just happened. They wanted me to sell my house, the house I'd worked for, the house I'd saved for since I was a teenager, the house that represented every sacrifice I'd made, every extra shift I'd worked, every time I'd chosen ramen over a real meal so I could put another $100 in my savings account. They wanted me to give it all to Jennifer, who'd never saved a dime in her life, who was having a baby with a man she barely knew, who still relied on our parents for everything. "Well," Mom prompted, "what do you say?" I looked around the table, at my father, who couldn't meet my eyes, at my sister, who was already calculating how much money she'd get, at my cousins and aunt and uncle, who seemed to think this was not only reasonable, but expected. Something inside me snapped. But instead of screaming, instead of throwing them all out of my house, instead of telling them exactly what they could do with their suggestion, I did something else. I smiled. I raised my wine glass, took a sip, and then slowly reached for my phone. That's interesting, I said calmly. You want me to sell my house? It's the right thing to do, Mom said firmly. Family takes care of family. Family takes care of family, I repeated. That's nice. You know what else is nice? Let me show you something. I opened my phone and navigated to my email. I'd received a message earlier that day from my bank, and I'd read it during my lunch break. At the time, I just smiled to myself and gone back to work. But now, oh now, it was going to serve a much better purpose. I got an email today, I announced, making sure my voice carried across the room from my bank. Would you like me to read it to you? Janice, this isn't the time. Dad started, but I cut him off. No, I think this is the perfect time. After all, we're talking about my finances, right? About what I should do with my money. I didn't wait for an answer. I started reading. Dear Miss Hayes, we are pleased to inform you that your investment portfolio has reached a new milestone. As of today's market close, your total assets under management with Haste Portfolio have exceeded $2.4 million. I paused and looked up. Every fork had indeed dropped. The silence was deafening. Should I continue? I asked sweetly. There's more. It says, sorry. Your diversified investment strategy, including your real estate holdings, stock portfolio, and retirement accounts, has yielded impressive returns over the past fiscal year. Congratulations on your financial acumen and disciplined saving strategy. Jennifer's mouth was hanging open. Brandon looked like he was trying to do math in his head and failing. Mom had gone pale. $2.4 million, I repeated, setting my phone down. That's what I'm worth, not counting my house. And you want me to sell my $400,000 house to give Jennifer what? Maybe $320,000 after fees and taxes? You have over $2 million? Stephanie squeaked. How? I worked for it. I said simply, I saved it, I invested it, I made smart choices. I didn't blow my money on cars I couldn't afford or designer purses or fancy vacations. I lived below my means for years. I maxed out my 401k. I bought index funds. I learned about compound interest and put it to work for me. You never told us, Mom whispered. You never asked, I shot back. You were too busy telling me I was selfish and shallow and missing out on what really matters. You know what's funny? I could have helped Jennifer. I could have given her money for the baby, helped her get her own place, set up a real college fund for my niece. But you didn't ask me to help. You demanded I give up my home. You demanded I sacrifice everything I'd worked for because you decided that Jennifer deserves it more than I do. That's not fair, Jennifer said, her voice shaking. You don't understand what it's like to struggle. I laughed, and it came out harsh and bitter. I don't understand struggle, Jennifer. I worked 2 jobs through college while you were still in high school, getting everything handed to you. I ate rice and beans for dinner for 3 years straight while you went out to restaurants with Dad's credit card. I wore the same coat for 5 winters while you got a new wardrobe every season. Don't you dare tell me I don't understand struggle. Janice, that's enough, Dad said, finally finding his voice. No, Dad, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. You want to know what else is in that email? My bank is recommending I consider purchasing additional investment properties because my portfolio can handle it. They think I should buy another house, maybe 2. Meanwhile, you want me to sell the one I have and give the money to someone who's never managed to save $1,000 in her entire life. She's your sister, Mom said, and I could hear the desperation in her voice now. The script had been flipped, and she didn't know how to handle it. And she's your daughter, I countered. If you're so concerned about her financial situation, maybe you should give her your house, or maybe Dad should cash out his retirement, or maybe, just maybe, Jennifer and Brandon should figure out their own lives like adults, instead of expecting everyone else to solve their problems. Uncle Ray cleared his throat. Now, Janice, there's no need to be cruel. Cruel? I turned to him. You declared bankruptcy twice because you made bad financial decisions, and you have the audacity to lecture me about cruelty. You're sitting in my house, eating food at my table, criticizing my choices, while asking me to give away everything I've earned. That's not family. That's parasitic. Aunt Carol gasped. Stephanie looked like she might cry. Tyler was staring at his plate. I think you should all leave, I said, standing up. This party is over. Janice, please. Mom started, but I held up my hand. No, I'm done. I'm done being the responsible one, who's somehow also the selfish one. I'm done being successful and having it treated like a character flaw. I'm done watching Jennifer fail upward while I'm expected to catch her every time. I'm done with all of it. You're going to regret this, Jennifer hissed, standing up. Her fake tears were gone, replaced by real anger. When you're old and alone, don't come crying to us. I won't be alone, I said calmly. I'll have my $2.4 million to keep me company. And if I do end up alone, at least I'll know I did it on my own terms. Not because I sacrificed everything for people who didn't appreciate it. They left, not quickly and not quietly. There was a lot of dramatic door slamming, a lot of muttered insults, a lot of declarations that I'd torn this family apart. Mom cried. Dad looked disappointed. Jennifer looked murderous. Brandon was the last to leave, but not before he leaned in close and whispered, You just made a huge mistake. Jennifer's family now, and you're going to regret turning your back on us. I smiled sweetly. The only mistake I made was waiting this long to stand up for myself. Now get out of my house. I watched them all pile into their cars from my front window. Jennifer was sobbing dramatically in the passenger seat of Brandon's BMW while he gesticulated wildly, probably already planning their next move. Mom and Dad sat in their car for a full 10 minutes, having what looked like a heated discussion. I could see Mom dabbing at her eyes with a tissue while Dad gripped the steering wheel. Uncle Ray gave me the finger as he drove past. Real classy. When the last car pulled away, I poured myself another glass of wine, sat down on my couch, and smiled. Then I started cleaning up. The half-eaten Olive Garden was congealing on plates around my dining room. Someone had spilled red sauce on my cream-colored carpet. There were water rings on my coffee table from where people had set down glasses without using coasters, despite the fact that I put coasters out specifically for that purpose. As I scraped leftover fettuccine into the trash, my phone started buzzing. Text after text after text. Mom, how could you humiliate your family like that? We only wanted what was best for everyone. Jennifer, you're a selfish and I hope you choke on your money. Stephanie, I can't believe you talked to Uncle Ray like that. He's been through so much. Tyler, pretty messed up what you did tonight. Family is supposed to help each other. Aunt Carol, your mother is devastated. I hope you're happy. I read them all, sipping my wine, feeling absolutely nothing. Well, that's not entirely true. I felt relief, like a weight I'd been carrying for 32 years had finally been lifted. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I opened my email and sent a message to my financial advisor, Richard Chen, who'd been managing my investments for the past 7 years. Richard had an interesting evening. Family suggested I liquidate my assets to fund my sister's lifestyle choices. Obviously, declined. This has me thinking about estate planning and making sure my assets go where I want them to go. Can we schedule a meeting next week to discuss setting up a proper will and possibly a trust structure? Also interested in discussing the investment property strategy you mentioned. Let's talk about expanding the portfolio. Best, Janice. He responded within 5 minutes, even though it was almost 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. Janice, sorry to hear about the family drama. Happens more often than you'd think when people find out about wealth. Yes to everything. Let's meet Tuesday afternoon. I'll prepare some options. Also, congratulations on standing your ground. That takes courage. Richard, I smiled at that. Richard had built his own wealth from nothing. First-generation American, put himself through school, worked his way up. He understood the value of money in a way my family never would. The texts kept coming throughout the night. I watched them pile up, each one more entitled than the last. Dad, your mother can't stop crying. You need to apologize and make this right. Jennifer, Brandon said, you were always jealous of me. I guess he was right. Mom, I didn't raise you to be this cold. Where did I go wrong? That last one almost got to me. Almost. But then I remembered all the times she'd praised Jennifer for mediocrity while criticizing me for imperfection. All the times she'd suggested I was too ambitious, too focused on work, too independent. All the times she'd made me feel like my success was somehow a character flaw. I turned off my phone and finished cleaning. Sunday morning, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. I made myself a proper breakfast. Eggs Benedict with smoked salmon, fresh fruit, good coffee. I ate it slowly, sitting at my dining table, reading the New York Times on my tablet. My phone was still off. I knew when I turned it on, there would be more messages, more guilt trips, more attempts to manipulate me into compliance. But for now, I just enjoyed the silence. Around noon, I finally powered on my phone. 63 text messages, 14 missed calls, 7 voicemails. I deleted them all without reading or listening to them. Then I called my best friend, Amber, who'd moved to California 3 years ago for work. She was one of the few people who really understood my family dynamics because she'd witnessed them firsthand during college. "Oh my God, Janice, I've been trying to reach you." "What happened?" She answered immediately. I told her everything. The ambush at dinner, the demand that I sell my house, the dramatic revelation of my net worth, all of it. She was silent for a long moment after I finished. Then she said, "I'm sorry. Did you say they actually cheered when your mom suggested you sell your house?" Cheered, applauded. Tyler started a slow clap like it was some inspiring movie moment. "That is absolutely insane. I mean, I knew your family was bad, but this is next level." The best part, Jennifer was crying fake tears, like she wasn't even trying to make them look real. She was just sort of scrunching up her face and making whimpering sounds. Amber burst out laughing. "I wish I could have seen their faces when you read that email. 2.4 million. Janice, I knew you were doing well, but holy years of living like a broke college student even after I graduated. Turns out compound interest is magical when you actually let it work. So what now? Are you just done with them?" I thought about that. I don't know. I'm definitely done letting them dictate my life or make me feel guilty for my choices. Whether that means no contact or just serious boundaries, I haven't decided yet. Whatever you decide, I support you. You know that, right? You worked your ass off for everything you have. You don't owe them anything. We talked for another hour, catching up on life, making plans for me to visit her in San Francisco. When we hung up, I felt even better. That afternoon, I did something I rarely let myself do. I went shopping. Not practical shopping, not buying things I needed, but actual fun shopping. I went to the mall and bought a ridiculously expensive handbag I've been eyeing for months. I bought 3 pairs of shoes that cost more than my first car. I bought a cashmere sweater in a color called Sunset Rose that made me feel like $1,000,000 when I tried it on. At every store, I used my credit card without guilt, without calculating whether I really needed these things, without hearing my mother's voice in my head telling me I was being wasteful. The total came to just over $3,000. I didn't even blink because here's the thing. I could afford it. I'd earned it, and I was done apologizing for having money that I'd worked hard to accumulate. Monday morning, I went back to work. My colleague David noticed something different about me immediately. "You seem, I don't know, lighter," he said, stopping by my desk with his morning coffee. "Had an interesting weekend," I said, not elaborating. "Good interesting or bad interesting?" "Both. Mostly good." He nodded, knowing better than to push. David and I had worked together for 5 years, and he respected boundaries. But at lunch, I found myself telling him the whole story. We were at our usual spot, a little Thai place near the office, and it just came spilling out. "Wait," he said, setting down his pad thai. "Your family tried to get you to sell your house at your own birthday party." "Yep, and give the money to your sister who you barely get along with." "That's the one. And they were surprised when you said no. Shocked. Appalled. Apparently, I'm the worst daughter and sister in the history of families." David shook his head. "That's genuinely insane. I mean, my family has issues, but at least they've never tried to steal my house. The thing is, they don't even see it as stealing. They genuinely believe they're entitled to my money because we're related. Like my success is somehow communal property. That's not how families work, or at least that's not how healthy families work." "Exactly." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Standing up for yourself, I mean, it takes guts to set those kinds of boundaries, especially with family." "Thanks. It doesn't feel like guts. It just feels like survival." That Tuesday, I met with Richard at his office downtown. He prepared a comprehensive presentation on estate planning, trust structures, and investment strategies. "Before we get into the technical stuff," he said, pulling up a chair across from his desk, "I want to say that what you're doing is smart. A lot of people in your position wait until there's a crisis to think about this stuff. You're being proactive. I just don't want them to get anything if something happens to me," I said bluntly. "Is that terrible?" "It's honest. And no, it's not terrible. Your assets are yours to distribute as you see fit. That's the whole point of estate planning. We spend 2 hours going over options. In the end, we set up a structure where the bulk of my estate would go to charity with smaller amounts designated for friends who'd actually been there for me. Richard also helped me draft a letter of intent explaining my reasoning so there could be no confusion about my wishes. "What about your future niece?" Richard asked. "You mentioned she's not born yet." I thought about that. Set up a small educational trust. Nothing huge, maybe 50,000, enough to pay for community college or a trade school if she wants it. But it's structured so the money can only be used for education and Jennifer can't touch it. Smart. That way you're helping the kid without enabling the parents. Exactly. We also discussed investment properties. Richard had identified 3 promising opportunities, all in up and coming neighborhoods with strong rental markets. By the end of the meeting, I committed to purchasing 2 of them, which would add another revenue stream to my portfolio. The next few days were interesting. I received a barrage of text messages. Mom called me ungrateful. Dad said I'd embarrassed the family. Jennifer sent me a long message about how I'd ruined everything, and how could I be so heartless to a pregnant woman. My cousins unfriended me on social media. Aunt Carol sent me a passive-aggressive message about how pride comes before a fall. Uncle Ray felt the need to share a Bible verse about helping the less fortunate. I blocked them all. Then things got weird. A week after the party, I received a certified letter at my office. It was from a lawyer representing Jennifer and Brandon. They were threatening to sue me for promissory establishes to their detriment. I actually laughed out loud when I read it. The lawyer's name was Howard Finch, and a quick Google search showed he was basically an ambulance chaser who had been sanctioned twice by the Bar Association. I forwarded the letter to my own attorney, Michelle Rodriguez, who I'd worked with when buying my house. She called me 20 minutes later, and I could hear the amusement in her voice. "This is the most ridiculous thing I've seen all year, and I once had a client sued by his neighbor for playing the accordion too loudly." She said, "There's no case here. You made no promises. And even if you had, verbal promises about future gifts aren't enforceable." So what do? I'll send Howard a very polite letter explaining basic contract law and suggesting he advise his clients to drop this before they waste everyone's time and money. You back down. Guys like this are all bluster. And if he doesn't, then we'll bury him in motions and he'll rack up legal fees he'll never recover. But trust me, it won't come to that. She was right. 2 days later, I received an email from Howard Finch stating that after further consideration, his clients had decided not to pursue legal action at this time. The "at this time" was clearly meant to sound threatening, but it just made me roll my eyes. Meanwhile, the family group text, which I'd forgotten to leave before blocking everyone individually, was apparently on fire. I knew this because Amber, who I'd added to my emergency contacts, started getting calls from my relatives asking her to intercede. "Your Aunt Carol called me." She told me during our nightly catch-up call. She said, "You've lost your way and need guidance from someone with sense." What did you say? I told her that you're the most sensible person I know and that maybe the family should look in the mirror before throwing stones. Then she called me a bad influence and hung up on me. "I'm sorry you got dragged into this. Are you kidding? This is the most entertainment I've had in months. My mom is thoroughly enjoying the updates too. She always said your family was nuts." Thursday evening, I came home to find my mother sitting on my front porch. She must have taken the train out from the city, which meant she was serious. Mom hated public transportation. "We need to talk," she said, standing up as I approached. "I don't think we do," I replied, unlocking my door. "Janice, please. I'm your mother." Something in her voice made me pause. She sounded tired, defeated even. Against my better judgment, I let her in. We sat in my living room, the same room where everything had exploded just the week earlier. I didn't offer her anything to drink. I just waited. "Your father and I have been talking," she began, "and we think maybe we came on too strong at the party." "Too strong?" I repeated flatly. "You ambushed me at my own birthday and demanded I sell my house. We were just trying to help Jennifer." "No," I cut her off. "You were trying to fix Jennifer's problems by sacrificing me. There's a difference." Mom's face crumbled a little. "It's not that simple. You don't understand what it's like to watch your child struggle. You have 2 children, Mom." "Or have you forgotten that?" Of course not. But you're fine. You're successful. You have money. I don't need what? Support. Love a family that's proud of me instead of resentful. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "We are proud of you." Of course we are. You have a funny way of showing it. When was the last time you congratulated me on anything? When was the last time you came to visit without criticizing something about my life? When was the last time you took my side instead of Jennifer's? It's not about taking sides. It's always been about sides, Mom. And I've always been on the losing one. Jennifer gets praised for showing up. I get criticized for not giving enough. Jennifer's failures are bad luck. My successes are lucky breaks. Do you know how exhausting it is to never be enough? Mom dabbed at her eyes. I never meant to make you feel that way. But you did. You do. And last week was just the culmination of 32 years of being treated like my only value is what I can provide for everyone else. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry. Fine, I'm sorry. But Jennifer is pregnant and scared and she needs help. And that's not my responsibility. I was surprised by the force of my own voice. She's an adult. She made choices. Those choices have consequences. I'm not her safety net. So you're just going to abandon your sister? I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just refusing to set myself on fire to keep her warm. There's a difference. Mom stood up abruptly. I came here hoping we could fix this, but I can see you've made up your mind. You've chosen money over family. No, Mom, I've chosen self-respect over being a doormat. If you can't see the difference, that's on you. She left without another word. I watched her walk down my driveway to call a cab, her shoulders hunched, looking older than I'd ever seen her. I felt the twinge of guilt, but I pushed it down. I meant every word I said. That weekend, something unexpected happened. I received a Facebook message from my cousin Tyler's girlfriend, Hannah, who I'd only met a handful of times. Hey, Janice, I know this is random, but I wanted to reach out. Tyler showed me the family group chat, and honestly, I think what they're asking of you is completely unreasonable. I come from a family like that too, where success is treated like a crime and everyone expects you to subsidize their choices. It sucks. Anyway, just wanted you to know, not everyone thinks you're the villain here, Hannah. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I wrote back, "Thanks, Hannah. That means more than you know." She responded immediately. Tyler is mad at me for reaching out, but whatever. I told him if he expects me to pile on you for having boundaries, he's going to be disappointed. Good luck with everything. It was a small thing, but it mattered. Knowing that at least one person in that room had seen through the manipulation made me feel less alone. Sunday afternoon, I decided to treat myself. I'd been working hard, dealing with family drama, and I deserved something nice. So I drove to my favorite spa and booked their deluxe package, massage, facial, mani-pedi, the works. As I lay on the massage table, feeling the tension leave my shoulders, I thought about the past week, the confrontation, the legal threat, the attempted guilt trips. All of it seemed to be coming from a place of desperation, of people who had built their lives on sand and were now panicking as the tide came in. But that wasn't my fault, and it wasn't my responsibility to fix. The massage therapist, a kind woman named Lisa, noticed my thoughtful expression. "Rough week?" she asked. "You could say that. Family stuff." The worst kind of stress. Family thinks they can push boundaries that strangers never could." "Exactly. How do you deal with it?" She laughed. "Poorly most of the time, but I'm learning that it's okay to disappoint people who don't respect you. Took me 45 years to figure that out, though. You seem young to have learned it already." "I'm a quick study," I said, and we both laughed. When I left the spa 3 hours later, I felt renewed, refreshed, ready to face whatever came next. What came next was a surprise, but here's the thing they didn't know. I'd already planned to help Jennifer. Before the dinner, before the ambush, I'd actually set up a meeting with my financial advisor to discuss setting up a trust fund for my future niece. Not a massive amount, but enough to ensure the kid would have money for college, maybe a first car, a head start in life. I'd been planning to announce it at the dinner. Actually, I was going to tell everyone that while I couldn't give Jennifer hundreds of thousands of dollars, I could make sure her daughter had opportunities. It was going to be my birthday gift to myself. In a way, the satisfaction of knowing I'd helped create a better future for the next generation. But they'd ruined it. They'd shown me exactly what they thought of me, exactly how little they valued my hard work and my autonomy. They tried to bully me into giving up everything, and when that failed, they tried to guilt me. So I canceled the trust fund. Instead, I donated $50,000 to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students, kids who were working their way through school like I did, who didn't have family safety nets, who understood the value of a dollar because they'd earned every single one. The donation was made in my name. And when the organization sent me a thank you letter, I posted it on social media, not to brag, but to make a point. I could be generous. I could help people. I just wasn't going to be blackmailed into it by people who'd never respected me. That post got back to my family, of course. Mom called, furious that I'd given money to strangers instead of family. I let it go to voicemail. Jennifer sent me a message calling me petty and vindictive. I deleted it without responding. A week after the dinner, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Brandon. "Hey, Janice," he said, and he actually sounded nervous. "I was hoping we could talk about what? About what happened at the dinner? Look, I know everyone came on pretty strong, but you have to understand, we're really struggling here. The baby is expensive, and Jennifer's scared, and we just thought maybe you could help out a little." "A little," I repeated. "Brandon, they wanted me to sell my house." "Yeah, that was probably too much," he admitted. "But maybe you could just give us some money just to help us get started. We wouldn't need much, maybe like 50,000. I actually laughed out loud. "You want $50,000? I mean, you have over 2 million. You wouldn't even miss it. The answer is no." "Come on, Janice, be reasonable. We're family." "No, Brandon. You're a guy my sister met 4 months ago who got her pregnant. You're not my family, and even if you were, the answer would still be no. You need to figure out your own financial situation. Get a better job. Make a budget. Stop leasing cars you can't afford. Be an adult. You're really just going to let your niece grow up poor because you're too selfish to share. My niece isn't going to grow up poor unless you and Jennifer make terrible choices. You both have the ability to work. You both have the ability to make money and save it. What you don't have is the right to mine." He hung up on me. I didn't care. 2 weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that Jennifer and Brandon had broken up. Apparently, once he realized there was no big payout coming from the rich sister, he lost interest in playing happy family. Jennifer moved back home with Mom and Dad, which I'm sure is going great for everyone involved. Mom tried to blame me for the breakup. She sent me a long email about how if I just helped out, Brandon would have stayed and Jennifer would have her happy ending. I didn't bother responding. If a guy only sticks around because he thinks there's money involved, he's not worth having around. 3 weeks after the dinner, I got a call from my actual best friend, Marcus, who's been my friend since college and who couldn't make the dinner because he was traveling for work. "I heard about the birthday disaster," he said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, and I meant it. Actually, I'm better than fine. I feel like I finally stood up for myself. "Good, because I have a proposition for you." "What kind of proposition?" "I'm starting a new investment firm, and I need a partner. Someone smart, someone savvy, someone who knows the market and isn't afraid to make bold moves." I immediately thought of you. We talked for hours. By the end of the conversation, I agreed to become a founding partner in Marcus's firm. It would mean long hours and hard work, but it also meant equity, profit sharing, and the opportunity to build something real. It meant my net worth was probably going to grow substantially over the next few years. I didn't tell my family. Why would I? They'd made it clear they were only interested in my money, not my success. 6 weeks after the dinner, Jennifer had the baby, a healthy girl named Sophia, born right on schedule at 39 weeks. Mom sent me a picture and a message saying that I was welcome to come meet my niece, but only if I was ready to be a real aunt and contribute to her future. I sent back a gift card for $50 to Target and a note that said, "Congratulations on the baby. Wishing you all the best." Mom called me cruel. I didn't answer. The truth is, I don't regret what happened at that dinner, not for a second. It showed me exactly where I stood with my family, and it freed me from the obligation of pretending anymore. I'm not the villain in this story, no matter how much they want to paint me that way. I'm just a woman who worked hard, made smart choices, and refused to be punished for her success. My house is still mine. My money is still mine. My life is still mine.